Russian forces are bearing down on the Ukrainian capital as new satellite images show that they are just 17 miles away from the center of the city. The images released by Maxar Technologies yesterday showed a 40-mile-long convoy of hundreds of Russian tanks and artillery approaching Kiev. The photos also showed developments of ground forces and attack helicopter units in southern Belarus.
We have much to get to. Let's just keep those pictures up for a second. David Ignatius, is extraordinarily frustrating for Americans and people across the West to see this. A slow-moving train of death to Kiev when, of course, everybody in this country understands we can't do anything in Ukraine without launching, or most understand, without starting World War III. At the same time, we're watching in slow motion a humanitarian crisis develop that we could literally take care of in 15 minutes by scrambling jets and wipe this entire convoy off the face of the earth. We can't do that. But the question is, why can't the Ukrainians, with the MiGs that they're getting from the EU, why can't anybody do anything about this slow approaching humanitarian nightmare?
The answer, Joe, must be that their forces have been degraded so far to the point that they're not capable of taking the action on what, as you say, is an obvious sitting target. If we can see it in these photographs we're looking at, so can the Ukrainians. Like you, I wake up every morning these days wondering if Kiev has fallen, waiting for the terrible humanitarian crisis that seems ahead. The Russians are not backing off. And as you say, without directly engaging the Russians in a conflict that President Biden, I think sensibly, says is not appropriate for the United States, there is very little that we can do except stand with the people of Ukraine, support them in whatever ways people can, and report their story. I've never been prouder of my colleagues than the journalists I see on television in Kiev and Kharkiv, risking their necks to bring us a true picture of what's happening.
Really is incredible reporting. But Ed, it is frustrating, so frustrating for Americans, for people in the West, people all over the world to see this nightmare unfolding in slow motion. Can you explain one more time to our viewers out there that ask, why can't America do something about this? Why can't they go out? Because I do hear that question an awful lot. And my shorthand is, well, because we don't want to start World War III.
That's a pretty good answer. I mean, I think if we're frustrated now, which we are, I mean, anguished by watching this very slow advance of the convoy, it only moved 3 miles yesterday. There are logistical problems there. But if we're frustrated now, I think we ain't seen nothing yet. That frustration is probably going to go through the roof. We're seeing, I think, the beginnings of a siege situation develop for Kiev and for other major cities like Kharkiv, Mariupol. All the major cities are being encircled. So we're going to have massive humanitarian crisis, something that will put what we're looking at today into the shade. The reason why we cannot take that convoy out or impose a no-fly zone on Ukraine is because that will automatically entail taking out Russian jets, which is war. And war between Russia and NATO is World War III. So that's the reason.
And also, David, to your point, you can deduce what NBC's Cal Perry is also backing up with his reporting, that the Ukrainians have zero air superiority at this point. That might be why they're asking for the no-fly zone. But it's frustrating to watch. You see this big convoy, Willie, just making its way toward the center of Kiev.
Yeah, it's a question many people have asked. In military parlance, those are sitting ducks. You know where they are. You know they're moving slowly. And with any Air Force, you could take them out before they got anywhere near Kiev. President Zelensky, meanwhile, is saying that Kiev remained, quote, a key goal for Moscow, adding it was hit by 3 missile strikes yesterday. But U.S. officials say Ukrainians are putting up a significant fight and slowing down the Russians so far.
We're also seeing the Ukrainians put up a very stiff and determined resistance on their capital city. And they have made it very difficult for the Russians to continue to move ahead. We believe that based on what we know of what their plans were, that they are behind schedule, that they have faced a stiffer resistance than they anticipated.
While Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, also coming under intense shelling. Officials say at least 9 people have been killed and dozens injured in attacks on that city since yesterday. They warn those numbers of casualties could rise. A video released by Ukraine's state emergency services just this morning shows a Russian missile hitting Kharkiv's regional state administration building. Early information from officials is 6 injured in the blast, including 1 child. No word yet on deaths there. President Zelensky condemned the airstrikes, calling them a war crime. He also said the Kremlin has launched 56 rocket strikes and fired 113 missiles since the invasion began last week. This, as the head of a region east of the capital said at least 70 soldiers were killed yesterday after a Russian missile attack on a military base. NBC News has not yet verified those numbers. Meanwhile, the International Criminal Court said it will open an investigation into possible war crimes perpetrated by Russia.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.